So week 2 has now been added to this off-season's history books. And we had the Jets green versus white scrimmage game to end the week, right? So a lot to talk about. I just, it's been great, if I'm being honest, right? Another week, great collaboration of progress from our defense and our offense. But as the saying goes, iron sharpens iron. The offense is just a little bit sharper, but we're going to talk about it.
I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a renaissance, man. I can do it all, I will never fall. It's the renaissance, you know that I got the mother sauce, man. You know I'm the boss, I know what it costs. Have you ever lost? I'm so versatile, yeah, I'm a renaissance, man.
Congratulations, brother. Hey.
And here we go. First things first. Let's just get the bet out of the way. No Haason Reddick. Haason Reddick was again a no-show. At this point, I don't know if they know what's going on. I don't know if they are really focused on it as much as they should be. Currently, Haason Reddick is being taxed $50K per day. That's a non-refundable fine of every day he misses practice. I personally like this. I like this because Joe Douglas is not caving to the media. He's not caving to the Jets fans, right? Not caving to us in terms of panic and wanting to get him into the building. I think there's a sense of calm in terms of where the defense is at, the defensive line, as well as the roster that he's built. Haason Reddick right now is losing money every day he's not in training camp. You're not going to get that back. Now, again, are they going to wind up doing something? I do believe they're going to wind up possibly just guaranteeing his money this year, maybe add a little bit more to kind of offset some of the fines that he's going to go ahead and have to eat. But I think right now the ball is in Joe's court. I like the way he's handling this. We've got another 4 weeks before the start of the season. I don't believe Haason Reddick's going to actually miss season games, but if he wants to go ahead and keep eating paychecks by missing practices every day, so be it. I'm not worried. But as Coach Saleh has said, I'm not going to talk about the individuals that are not here. Let's talk about the ones that are. And an individual that is currently here that I'm worried about in terms of the bad is Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann is concerning. At this point, it's not as if he's struggling with blocks or that he can't block. It's not that, right? The guy has his voice as a center. The offensive line is kind of going off of his beat. He understands the scheme. He's understanding what Aaron Rodgers wants. So that's all good. But man, has he had some terrible snaps in training camp. And it continues. It's continuing to happen. So specifically the one that he just had in yesterday's game, the scrimmage game, it's concerning because Aaron Rodgers, being Aaron Rodgers, turned his back to the freaking defense, went to go ahead and get the ball, and would have most likely tried to either get the ball or land on the ball in a real game. Well, lucky for Rodgers, we can't hit him right now, right? But it was the kind of failed snap that really could have gotten him just crushed in a real game. And again, our 40-year-old quarterback, I don't want him taking unnecessary hits. And in a situation like that, you really start asking the question. So he just have, let it go. You know what I'm saying? Maybe tag the individual down once they touch the ball, or sacrifice himself. Like you're put in that situation where you're wondering. And for me, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I think that he should have let it go. But that's just me being panicked. He's 40 years old. So the Joe Tippmann thing has to get under control. I think right now it makes zero sense as to why we haven't brought in a guy like McGovern, right? He's still out there. He's working out. I know the Miami Dolphins are also having snap issues. The last thing we want is for them to go ahead and take a quality center off the board. And we can bring him in right now as the backup. I'm not saying he's going to start over Joe, but at least have him there as the backup. I don't see what the harm in that would be. I'm starting to get a little concerned about that. But again, we've still got another month or so to go ahead and get it kind of in order. Preseason games start next week. So again, we're starting to get into that groove of preparing for actual games and still doing training camp. I digress. It seems like Coach Saleh isn't too worried about it. I am, but maybe that's the PTSD in me as a Jets fan, seeing some of those snaps and how bad they could impact the drive in a real game. It's not sitting well. But again, I digress. And let's see. Tariq Cohen. out of nowhere, he decides to retire. I think Tariq Cohen right now was having a pretty good camp. One of the individuals we're looking at as our potential special teams special teams guy. Unfortunately, it looks as if he's decided to retire, and I say that because he posted once he retired. His manager came out and said he was going to retire, but two, he posted a video of his, I think it was his kid, and he was pushing the kid on a swing, and on the bottom, he said F football, and it seems like it was family oriented. Listen, the guy was going to be a fringe roster maker, right? Again, making the final roster, potentially as RB4 or as a special teamer. Tariq Cohen did some incredible things when he was at his peak in the league, but coming off some major surgeries, he decides to retire. I'm not mad about it. I'm not upset about it. I don't think any Jets fan really is upset about it. But again, it happened. Wanted to go ahead and share that with you guys. And I guess another bad would be Sauce Gardner was a non-participant in the scrimmage game yesterday. Now, we had individuals talking about that Sauce was in the training tent trying to get some treatment or getting worked on. But there was also news that he had missed the practice the day before yesterday. So that potentially for Sauce Gardner Day that he's being honored with in his city, which is, again, pretty awesome. Congratulations to Sauce on that one. That it was an excused absence for him to go ahead and potentially handle that, which is why he didn't play in the scrimmage game. So again, I don't know if it's an accountability thing, like he was told by Coach Saleh, if you go to this thing, which we understand, you can't play in the scrimmage game, or we don't know the details. I don't think he's hurt. See him walking around just fine. You've heard nothing about any kind of injury. So whether he was in a training camp, maybe he was getting a massage because he couldn't play in the game, who knows? Nevertheless, Sauce Gardner didn't play in the scrimmage game. So I figured, I'd share that with you guys, kind of keep an eye on that. I'm not too worried about it. I don't think you should be either. And I guess, finally, Gibson. Gibson was also a non-participant in training camp for week 2. We're talking about a guy who I think still has a leg injury from what we were told a couple of weeks before they kind of figured that out. Not too worried about that. Gibson, wide receiver 5 on this roster, maybe 6. Special teams guy, of course. But nonetheless, he hasn't participated in week 2, and it doesn't look like he'll be participating for the next couple of weeks. So I think that's it. I think that's the bad for Jets camp. And I mean, if that's bad, that's good. that's very good for us. I'm not mad at that. Knock on wood that it continues to be the case. But let's talk about the good. All right. So the situation report coming out of camp for training camp week 2 is that Aaron freaking Rodgers is very good at football. My God, the guy is just, he's locked in. It's like the level of focus and intensity that he's brought into training camp is reminiscent of a man who is out to prove something. You can see it in every snap he takes. He's very, very deliberate in the way he's training and how he's talking to his receivers, talking to his offensive line. The guy is moving around the pocket uninhibited. Like, he looks like a man on a mission, a man that's focused. And let's be honest, we've seen Aaron Rodgers do things like this when, the media has kind of, deemed him to be washed, when the Packers want to draft his replacement. Like, this is a guy that seems to thrive in opportunity to prove people wrong. And there's been a lot of naysayers over the last year and change. A lot of content provided to him by content creators, a lot of content provided to him by the media, like things I know that this man probably has somewhere in his house that he watches on repeat and he laughs about it because he's already pondering how he's going to make people eat their words this season. And you're seeing it. You're seeing him attack one of the best defenses in football consistently. You're seeing him, sorry about that. I need to go ahead and put that to studio mode. You're seeing him focus on opportunities to go ahead and make everyone around him better. It's not just about the wide receivers. It's not just about the offensive line. He's making the running backs better. You're seeing him hold people accountable. It's an Aaron Rodgers who I think right now has come into this season understanding that he wanted to come here and give the Jets 2 freaking good years. An Aaron Rodgers led team that would go to the Super Bowl here in New York or break this playoff curse, or my man is an MVP. you're adding to your freaking, I guess you're gonna say to your freaking track record, to your, to your career and incredible feat. In all actuality, this team is starved for wins. This team is starved for postseason success. The fans are starved for it. It's the biggest media market in the world. If you're able to go ahead and win here, you can do anything anywhere because that's the kind of recognition you bring to the table. I think Rodgers wants that. I think Rodgers truly wants that for himself. And this is a man who, hey, listen, call him a narcissist, call him selfish. You kind of need that from your superstars. You think Tom Brady isn't a narcissist? You think Tom Brady isn't selfish? You think everything he does is because he's doing it for everyone else, or he wants his legacy to be what he wants his legacy to be? Every great man, woman ever that's ever achieved anything what's their name in the history books. That's just the part. They want their name in the history books to be one of, if not the best. I think Aaron Rodgers wants that, and I think he's focused on that. So for me, the way he's moving around, you're seeing him throw the ball. He's 40 years old, but the arm strength is there with plenty of oomph. He's got plenty more in the tank. He's moving around back there. I'm not saying again he's as mobile as he once was, but he's moving around pretty well. He's operating as if he never even had an injury, is what I'm trying to get to. Aaron, you could not tell looking at this Aaron Rodgers if you didn't know that the man tore an Achilles last year at the age of 39 years old. Aaron Rodgers is going to be 41, I think, in December of this year. And I think he's going to be in the conversation for a couple of awards, if I'm being honest with you. The way he's looking right now, if he stays healthy, if anybody doubts Aaron Rodgers, well, do so at your own peril. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have an incredible season, and we're seeing it already sprinkled out throughout training camp. And let's be honest, he's got a lot more help on this roster this season than he did last year. So again, Aaron freaking Rodgers is doing Aaron freaking Rodgers things in training camp, and you love to see it. Garrett Wilson. Listen, this man is going to be a top 5 receiver by the season's end. I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and argue with anybody about it. By season's end, Garrett Wilson is going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And in all actuality, I can see him being in that number 3 spot. Now listen to me. Listen, I think when it comes to it, Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill you can't argue that those guys are the top 2 guys in the league when it comes to freaking being a wide receiver. I know Tyreek Hill just won, I think it's number 1 player in the NFL voted on by the freaking football players. But football players aren't general managers for a reason. Most of them never wind up being general managers, right? I think it's just Justin Jefferson. I think JJ is on a whole other level. But then when you make the argument that Tyreek Hill has made Tua a Pro Bowler, or he's gotten Tua paid, that's a lot of the argument as to why they think that he was given the number 1 slot, is because look what he's done for Tua, allowing him to be deemed an elite or a top 10 quarterback in the NFL when he was on the verge of being, dismissed of, by the Miami Dolphins prior to Tyreek Hill getting here. Again, I think it's a combination of Tyreek Hill, McDaniel. I think those things combined have allowed Tua to really play football at his strengths. But nevertheless, it's hard to argue Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. That number 3 spot, that 3 spot between your CeeDee Lambs and your Jamar Chases, I think Garrett Wilson's in that conversation. I'm sorry, I think he is. This is a guy who's got back-to-back freaking 1,000-yard seasons, won Offensive Rookie of the Year with, mind you, the worst supporting cast in all of the game, right? Poor offensive line, poor offensive coaching, the worst quarterbacks plural. He's dealt with 6 of them in his first 2 years. Worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and yet this guy has still found a way to produce when he's dealing with double teams, poor passes, poor game planning. Listen, Garrett Wilson to me is a top 3 guy, but I'm gonna be humble. I'm gonna be humble, and I'm gonna say by season's end, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. And there's not going to be anybody who's going to argue that. They're going to see it. They're going to believe it. He's going to prove it, and I am here for it. Garrett Wilson has looked that good in camp. He's looked that good in camp. The guy gets open at will. He catches everything thrown his way. And again, he's going up against some top-tier cornerbacks. He's not going up against some practice squad guys or some guys who, these are all pros, Pro Bowl caliber freaking cornerbacks he's practicing against every snap. Whether it's Sauce Gardner, whether it's freaking DJ Reed, DJ Reed might have been snubbed out of the Pro Bowl, but his numbers tell you he's a Pro Bowl caliber cornerback. And you're seeing Garrett Wilson cook these guys. Well, not necessarily cooking sauce. Those guys are going back and forth, and they're getting the best of each other. But you see him cooking a guy like DJ Reed, and you feel pretty confident in what he can do against the majority of cornerbacks in the NFL. And with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, I mean, that can only end in a positive light. Garrett Wilson, top 5 wide receiver in the NFL by season's end. It's not even a question. By the end of this year, I think everyone's going to know it, and it will not surprise me if this dude is top 3. Top 3 after those solidified top 2 guys in JJ and freaking Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Talking about wide receivers. Allen Lazard. The return of Allen Lazard. It's almost as if the real Lazard has decided to stand up. The plays he's made this week kind of like solidifies this for me, because he had a good week 1 as well, but I thought to myself, it's a fluke. I'm not going to talk about it on last week's SitRep. But in this week's SitRep, I can't help but be like, man, this dude he's looked different. He looks focused. He looks re-engaged. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers got in his ass and said, listen, man, you're not going to embarrass me. I brought you out here, got you paid. I'm going to need you to go ahead and start reciprocating that on the field. I don't know what happened. But in terms of the output that we're currently seeing, it's nothing but positive. Allen Lazard has made some big catches in training camp. Made some really, really big catches that have resulted in either touchdowns or field goals or big first downs. And they've been contested catches too. So he's getting tough contested catches. He's looking like the reminiscent of the Lazard that had the 800 plus yards two years ago with Aaron Rodgers. Like that legitimate wide receiver 2 we were hoping we were going to be getting when we brought him in. Now, I'm not falling for that again. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think he's got the ability to be the wide receiver 2. I think Mike Williams being in the building gives us safety net in that aspect. I think Mike Williams is going to be a top tier wide receiver 2, potentially 1B to a Garrett Wilson. But Allen Lazard, remembering how to play football, putting the soccer ball away or whatever it is, I think is going to be a benefit to this roster, because if you can get 80% of what Allen Lazard was in Green Bay, you're talking about a really, really good wide receiver 3. And I'm not going to be mad at that. You know what I'm saying? A really, really good wide receiver 3. He'd probably be the 5th option in our offense too, on top of that, after Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, Conklin, Corley maybe, and then Allen. Like, I think you could do worse. You could do a lot worse than a really, really good wide receiver 3, which is what I think Allen Lazard is giving us right now. If he can give us at least 80% of the production we saw out of him his last couple of years in Green Bay. But yeah, I've got to give it to him. It's been a really good week 2 in terms of training camp for him. Again, he also, yesterday's game, ended it with a beautiful contested catch, ran to the middle of the field, put the ball down, understood the situation, got the ball snapped, whatnot. They were able to kick the field goal to win the freaking scrimmage. Allen Lazard made that big play. So again, whether it's Aaron Rodgers who got in his ass, or whether he's just figured out, you know what, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm supposed to be a football player. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened, but I'm glad it happened, because it's only going to make this team better and make them more of a force when it comes to the offense. So that happened. Allen Lazard, kind of shocking me specifically, which is why I had no choice but in week 2 to go ahead and give him his flowers. But sticking to the wide receiver room, Malachi Corley. Listen, our 3rd round wide receiver. Again, I loved the pick. I think the majority of us loved the pick. This was a guy who should have gotten the 2nd round. And the only reason I even say the 2nd round is because it was a stacked wide receiver class this season, or this freaking draft. Malachi Corley right now is being utilized all over the offense. I mean, you're seeing him in the backfield, you're seeing him in the slot, you're seeing him on the outside, which means he's processing this offense fast enough to understand these very, very different positions, right? And I would say difficulty in terms of going from running back to slot receiver to outside. That's a lot of difficult, processing that he's being tasked with, and he's being put in those situations. And I gotta say, it's exciting to see. Now, I'm not saying that he's been excelling in them whatsoever. He still has to clean up some of his route running, But I will tell you this, it lets me know that Nathaniel Hackett is digging deep into his bag of tricks or into his bag of knowledge, and he's opening it up as much as he can to kind of utilize the weapons that he has at his disposal. And I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see Hackett taking this job seriously in terms of like, man, people don't think I can do this job. And he's going into this bag of tricks and finding a way to utilize a weapon like Malachi Corley. I'm excited for this. You've also kind of seen Corley kind of have a connection with Rodgers already. He's made some pretty big catches from Aaron Rodgers. A couple of beautiful big touchdown catches too. I mean, really over the shoulder stuff, like tracking the ball into his hands, keeping his feet in bounds, or in a situation where it was his knee and his shin. Listen, what you see from Malachi Corley is really, really good stuff. And again, him being utilized all over the offense, it's chef's kiss to Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not sure if it's truly him or if it's Aaron Rodgers making these suggestions. I don't care, because we're seeing it and it's a good thing. Again, it's another layer of complexity to our offense, and Corley coming in at wide receiver 4 for the Jets. Listen, you're talking about maybe we might have figured it out when it came to the wide receiver situation a little bit. Maybe. Just maybe. But sticking to the wide receiver room, there's some honorable mentions. We're talking about Tyler Harrell, Jason Brownlee, Malik Taylor, and even Hamza El-Zayat. I hope I'm saying that right. But they've all been making plays in camp. I mean, they're getting noticed. They're making contested catches. Jason Brownlee is scoring touchdowns from freaking Tyrod Taylor. Like those guys are doing some awesome things with the number 2 offense and the number 3 offense. Sprinkled in a couple of times in the number 1 offense, but you're seeing those guys make a name for themselves. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm starting to worry about Gibson a little bit, right? As he's sitting on the sidelines with that leg injury, you could easily be the forgotten man. I know he brings some value in terms of special teams, but man, Malik Taylor and Hamza El-Zayat specifically have had a pretty good week thus far. It's like they're taking full advantage of him not being there. But yeah, ultimately, I think the Jets might carry 6 wide receivers. Very possible it's just 5. I do believe you've got Garrett, Mike Williams, Alan Lazard, Malachi Corley. So you're fighting for 1, maybe 2 other spots. So that wide receiver room right now is getting competitive. So something for us to keep an eye on during getting down to cut day, because those guys made a name for themselves. I wasn't really watching them much in week 1, but I'm watching them now. So really love seeing that. Sticking with the offense, Morgan freaking Moses. Morgan Moses is back. So Morgan Moses is officially back, taking snaps with the first team offense. And it officially means our offensive line is complete. Our starting 5 offensive linemen are now together. They're able to take reps together. They're able to go ahead and train together. And I'm telling you, with a month left before the season starts, you couldn't ask for a better situation. As a Jets fan, I don't know the last time we've had such a good situation where our starting offensive linemen are already known. First of all, we already know who they are. The presumed starting 5. We already know who they are. But they're able to practice together as such with about a month left in training camp before the season officially kicks off. Morgan Moses is back. That's exciting stuff. You've got your from left to right. You've got Tyron Smith. You've got John Simpson. You got Joe Tippmann right now, which is my biggest question mark and concern when it comes to those snaps. And then you've got Elijah Vera Tucker. And then now you've got freaking Morgan Moses. They're all working together, getting snaps together. And man, it's a beautiful thing, because the offensive line has been cooking in training camp. And now you add another strong component at the right tackle spot. And it just means everybody's getting the experience, right? Even our backups right now have gotten a lot of experience throughout camp because they were able to fill in, either on the right side or on the left side for the rest days for freaking Tyron. This could be the year the offensive line isn't going to be a detriment to this team. And it's exciting because it's been a while since we've had that. So Morgan Moses is officially back. So that's beyond exciting. Yeah, okay. So I guess, what? I mean, again, Breece Hall has done his thing. Like, there's been a lot of other positives, but I wanted to highlight ones that really stood out to me when it came to week 2. The situation report is a New York Jets SitRep provided to you by Gunny. And these were the guys that really kind of like popped to me. So last but not least, man, okay, I'm gonna just say it. Braylon freaking Allen. I'm really starting to wonder if this kid is going to eat into Breece Hall's touches, because Braylon Allen has been crushing it. I mean, the dude has been great at camp. You're talking about great hands, really, really good route runner. He's had some great bursts and great speed out of the backfield. He's strong, right? Big dude, hard to bring down. And what's even more important is I've seen him protecting Aaron Rodgers and picking up blitzes and blocking in a way that we didn't have anybody who could do it last year after freaking Breece Hall. So it was Breece Hall, and then nobody else could protect Aaron Rodgers, or would have been able to protect Aaron Rodgers when it came to the running back room. Braylon Allen is doing that in droves. Like he's really crushing everything he's been asked to do. The kid is picking up on the offense extremely quickly. You've seen him already have some great runs, some nice catches. Aaron Rodgers seems to be comfortable with him and liking him. Braylon Allen right now to me is not only a surprise into how quickly he's being implemented, but for me to be sitting here and wondering whether or not he's going to impede on freaking the touches that our guy Breece Hall gets. I'm shocked to have wondered this throughout the week. And I'm not saying he's better than Breece Hall. I'm not saying he's better than Breece Hall. I don't know that he is. Breece Hall to me is an elite talent. I'm not saying Braylon Allen's an elite talent, but he is really, really good in terms of what I've seen. And you're talking about a guy who's going up against top tier defense. He's been able to play against freaking one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL, and he's looking good in training camp. And the pads came on, and it seems like his game took another level. Braylon Allen to me has impressed. And at RB2, Jets fans, be happy. Another weapon we have right now on this roster. We have the oldest and the youngest, right? Players in the NFL. Braylon Allen being the youngest. But I'm sitting here telling you, I'm not saying that he can push Breece Hall for his snaps, for more of his touches. But at this time, I cannot say whether or not he can't. I can't tell you that he can't do it. So it's a great position to be in. Braylon Allen, really love what I've seen from this kid. But yeah, I mean, that in a nutshell is the situation report for week 2 training camp for the New York Jets. All in all, it seems like the offense won the week. Defense did a lot more push-ups than the offense did, which would indicate that the offense wind up winning this week 2 of training camp. I think it's a great problem to have, though. I think it's a great problem to have, and I know it's very cliche to talk about the iron sharpens iron thing, but you're talking about a defense that's been top 5, top 3 in the last couple of years, top 1 in some instances, the number 1 defense in football, but they're going up against a legitimate offense now in training camp, right? So yes, granted, offense has gotten the best of them potentially over the last couple of weeks, but they're still getting better. Because now those little nuances, those screen passes that was kicking our asses last year, they're able to go ahead and get a legitimate quarterback that's going to force them to see blind spots that they didn't have to worry about with the last crop of quarterbacks they've had to train against. So seeing these guys get beat, it's a good thing that's happening now, because I think come the season, they're going to see something in a game that they wouldn't have seen otherwise, because it happened with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And they're going to know how to react because they've seen it before now by a good quarterback in the NFL. I just think it's good for this to be happening to our team now in August, while it's happening to our team in September or October. So for me, for us as Jets fans, it's been a great camp. It's been a great camp. And I think this is a sign of things to come. Again, I'm sitting here, I'm telling you, I think by season's end, there are going to be several offensive players on this roster that are in top categories in the NFL. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be MVP Aaron Rodgers. I know some people hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I do believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be a top 10 quarterback in this league this season, and that's more than enough. Because if you got Aaron Rodgers at top 10, I can guarantee you our running game is going to be in that top 5 range, right? So you got an overall top 5 to 10 offense in the NFL. I have no concerns about our defense. So a top 5 defense remains, a top 5 special team remains. And that's the recipe you're looking for to go ahead and make some noise and disturb some things in the NFL. It's been a long time coming. 13 years is a long time to be without a playoff appearance. But I don't just want to make it into the playoffs, right? I want to make it into the playoffs, and I want us to win playoff games. And I think this team is on track to do that. Week 2 of training camps officially in the books. Go Jets. Just, man, go Jets. It's going to be a fun season. And I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you guys.